Welcome Exiles, I'm back with another video and I wanted to show you my League starter and how everything is going this new patch. So I decided to League start a Lich just because I thought she looked really cool. I was very torn between League starting a Lich or a Bleed Amazon. However, I just weren't sure if the Huntress or the Amazon would be very good at all. Since it's a new class, you never really know. And well, I was kind of half right and half wrong, because it turns out the Huntress was a very difficult class to start with. A lot of people found it very weak and slow, especially with spears and stuff like that. So the first week was painful for Huntress users. However, it has turned around a little bit now because we are seeing some strong builds coming out, and particularly the build that I was quite tempted to go for, which was the Bleed Amazon, has turned out to be quite a strong build. Garatha is playing it right now and he's doing very well, deep into the endgame tier 15 and pinnacle bosses and stuff like that. So if I went for it, it would have turned out alright, but the start would have been even more painful than it already has been for me. And I picked one of the comfiest and best starters of this patch, turns out, which is Essence Drain Contagion Lich. And yes, it was very comfy and very powerful to start off. However, I just didn't really enjoy the build. I don't know why, I can't really tell you. Maybe it's just the sort of boring playstyle for me of, you know, shooting an essence drain into a monster, putting contagion on it, waiting for that one monster to die so that that contagion then spreads to the whole pack, and then waiting for the whole pack to die while the damage over time does its thing. And rinse and repeat, basically. That is all that the build was. But the reason why I wanted to play Lich and that Chaos build in particular was because of the Ascendancy node over here, which is Rupture the Soul. Cursed enemies killed by you have a 1 in 3 chance to explode, dealing a quarter of their maximum life as Chaos damage. So basically Profane Bloom, if you are familiar with that from PoE 1. And I've always loved explosions, whether it's elemental or chaos or whatever, you know. Just chaos pops have always been really satisfying. So I wanted to make a build around that. I wanted it to be a crit chaos damage over time and chaos explosion build. And I figured the best way to do that would be ED Contagion. But I was very frustrated just because it just turns out that that's not really the most effective way to play that build. Basically what people are doing with EDC is that they're going non-crit and they're just going like pure damage over time, not really worrying about the chaos pops or anything. They're not really taking that node at all. They're just going for a chaos dot build as a really tanky Lich, which is cool and all, but that's not really the way that I wanted to go. Although I know that I could have made it work, it just didn't feel great knowing that I'm developing a build which is just not going to be as strong as the same build, but in a slightly altered version, if you know what I mean. So when I hit maps, tier 1 maps, just after completing the campaign, I decided to reroll into another build, and that is what you are seeing right now. And that is a Bonestorm, Bone Cage, cast on crit, detonate dead, sort of power charges thing. I don't really know what to call it. I guess it's just a Bonestorm Lich. But how this build essentially works is that we're using Bone Cage as an AoE ability to clear packs. It does good damage, and this is a crit build, so very high crit chance and high crit damage bonus. And Bone Cage works very well. We have it linked with Astral Projection so that you can cast it wherever you want. Spell Cascade just for more area of effect, and considered casting just for more DPS. Now what Bone Cage does is it pins enemies, and we are running Combat Frenzy, which says that you gain a frenzy charge when you freeze, electrocute or pin an enemy. And because we are constantly pinning enemies with Bone Cage, we are constantly generating frenzy charges. However, we don't actually want frenzy charges. What we want are power charges. One, because they give us increased critical hit chance, because we are also running Charge Infusion, which says consumes 1 of each charge every 4 seconds, and depending on what charge you have, it gives you a different bonus. So this is what these charges do in PoE 1 if you're not aware. So a power charge will give you 15% more crit hit chance once it has been consumed, and because we are constantly having those power charges from pinning enemies, we are just always having more crit chance, which is really nice because this is a crit build. But why do we also want power charges? Before I say that, just quickly, I forgot to mention how we are generating power charges, because Combat Frenzy generates frenzy charges and no other charges. So to turn them into power charges, we are running Resonance, which states that we gain power charges instead of frenzy charges. So that's how we solve that. Anyway, why do we also need power charges apart from the fact that they give us more crit chance? And that is because we consume them upon using Bonestorm to make Bonestorm empowered, and the empowered version of Bonestorm explodes upon impact, dealing area of effect damage and just generally dealing more damage in total. So essentially how the gameplay looks, how this build works, is that you are running around bone caging enemies, pinning them, and usually bone cage does enough damage just to kill everything anyway. So you're pinning them, you're gaining power charges. At the same time, you're also going to be cast on crit Detonate Dead for some extra clear. And Detonate Dead is really strong. It deals about, I think it's 10% or maybe a quarter of the enemy's total life in an area of effect damage. It's an explosion. It's really strong, and I've always loved the ability. So I love any build that uses Detonate Dead. And currently in my setup, I'm not using cast on crit, just because I'm playing SSF and haven't got enough spirit, and spirit is really difficult to get this early on anyway. So for me, I'm just manually casting Detonate Dead, but that also works great. It's just a little bit more work. Anyway, so yeah, you're bone caging enemies, casting Detonate Dead, so everything is just dying really quickly. It's nice. You're pinning enemies, which means that they can't move towards you. It's a great defensive as well. You're generating a bunch of power charges for even more crit, so you're critting even more. And then if you stumble upon a rare or a tanky enemy or a boss, then we are using Bonestorm. Now, I personally just use Bonestorm right now for bosses or rares or tanky enemies, just because I haven't got a lot of cast time. So it's a bit of because it's a channel skill, it's a bit of a slow cast at the moment, and it's just not worth waiting for the cast to go off into a pack of mobs where you can just use Bone Cage and just kill it much quicker than you would with a Bonestorm. And generally, I've just really been enjoying this sort of playstyle. Been much better for me than the EDC build, and I am playing in SSF, so it's a bit more difficult and the progress is going to be a bit slower. But I'm having a lot of fun at the moment. And I've got to say, the endgame has been majorly improved, and the endgame is great. It's just the campaign was such a slog to get through, and there was a patch yesterday which fixed a bunch of stuff within the campaign, so I'm sure it's much better now, much easier, much quicker to do. But yeah, I had to slog through it before the fixes when it was really hard and just annoying. And I also have a full-time job, so I could only play so many hours during the day. It literally took me 5 days, so a full working week, to get through the campaign. It took me about 20 hours to get through the campaign. I had about 3 to 4 hours each day to play as much as I could. So it literally took me a full working week to get through the campaign, and it was absolute torture. And I felt, honestly, I just felt a bit sad. Like, I did not enjoy it. I weren't having fun. And like I said, by the end of the campaign, I just felt relief, and I didn't even really want to carry on playing, to be honest. I just weren't enjoying the build, I weren't enjoying the game, and I was extremely close to quitting and just leaving this patch, and then waiting for Last Epoch, and then waiting for the next patch in PoE 1. Luckily, that did not happen. I changed builds, it's all good now, I'm having fun, I like my build, I like my character, I'm enjoying SSF, and the endgame is brilliant. It is well improved, and I'm enjoying it a lot. So that basically summarizes my experience of the first sort of week of League Start and 0.2. Generally, I give it a thumbs up in the state that it is currently right now. After the patch that we had yesterday that fixed a bunch of stuff. Still though, GGG, please fix the European servers. They have been dog shit for a week. Constant disconnects. I'm playing on Washington, DC in the US, because it's the only server that doesn't constantly DC me and make me lose my progress and my maps and rollbacks. So yeah, fix your servers, please. Europe is dying, it's on fire. Yeah, we have all migrated, so please fix that. With all that being said, stay tuned. I hope you're having a wonderful League Start, and I hope you're enjoying the game now after all the fixes. And as always, stay exiled.